welcome Alex Funderburk.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So this is the Clockwork Percussion podcast, and we're just going to go over a few questions and let the listener know what you're up to. So why don't you tell us, please, how you got into drums and what you're currently doing?
Well, drums, I wanted to play them since I was like a kid. And obviously, like most kids, you don't get a drum kit when you want one when you're 12, 13. So I took up guitar, and I played guitar for many years. And then around, I don't know, 5 years ago, I was like, hey, I got plenty of money. I got plenty of space in my condo. I'm going to get an E-kit so I can start, like, live my dream of playing drums. So I got a Roland TDK 20, I think it's called, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't do any research. I just started putting MP3s on and playing over Led Zeppelin and trying to just figure it out. And actually hurt my shoulder in the very beginning. Just a lot of mistakes and a lot of just hacking through it myself. And then recently I've got a little more serious and started taking lessons and learning rudiments and like trying to get the foundations, correcting all the bad habits. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's just living out, just always wanting to play drums and, getting a little more serious now, starting to get a little bit of chops. But did I answer the question?
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. Very cool. Taking that next step and correcting mistakes and getting new habits and everything.
Yeah.
That's a leap that most people don't take.
Yeah.
So
and the goal, I guess,
commendable.
is like the more I'm learning now, it's like I'm looking at the drums almost like when I first started, it was like I could only practice the drums if there's like I'm playing to some music. Now I'm at this point where I'm like I want to learn to play the drums as an instrument by itself to where it like sounds awesome just playing with no music. And that's like almost now where I'm at. Like I almost enjoy playing the drums without music now. So focusing on it as just like its own independent instrument like you do with guitar or anything else. And that was always a little weird for me, but recently like I'm connecting all these dots and now I'm like getting a lot of enjoyment with like I don't even run the MP3 player anymore. I'm more just like into playing the rudiments and just getting the coordination down has become like super fun and interesting to me.
Very cool.
So,
very cool. All right. So who is your favorite drummer of all time?
I mean, there's a handful, but the guy that since when Frizzle Fry came out and like whenever that was, 1991 or I don't know. I like drummers. Like there was other stuff going on. Lars on Justice for All, even though like he's not looked at as like the coolest drummer, but like the video one when I think I was in the 7th grade, that double bass really like struck my imagination. But Tim Alexander was really like the dude, his creative drumming and just the way his kit sounds and just such a badass drummer. And I always just like it was maybe one of the first bands where like when I'd listen to him I was like really everyone loves Les Claypool bass, so I was always like really tuned into Tim Alexander's drumming and like fascinated with the sounds, and it just sounded different than anything I ever heard. And I always just like fantasized like playing like him, being like him, and like just achieving even somewhere close to like that sort of sound and rhythm and so yeah, I would say Tim Alexander. There's others, but I would have to put Tim Alexander at the front.
For sure.
Obviously there's the Neil Pearts, Danny Carey's, and like John Bonham, of course, but
yeah,
Tim Alexander's like the drummer of my generation, so I'd have to put him there. Tim Alexander.
Awesome.
Herb.
Herb.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sick nickname. Cool. What sticks do you like to use?
Well, recently, I don't even know if I have a favorite brand. Like since I started taking lessons, I realized I was using completely the wrong thickness of stick. I just had it all wrong. Like now I go back and play the sticks I was playing before I started getting, my bad habits corrected, and I just like can't even believe I was using these thin paper like light sticks. They're horrible. I can't even use them anymore. So, but now I'm using Scorpion percussion on my pads, and then I just happen to have Vic Firth sticks laying around. I just tend to like gravitate the Vic Firth sticks for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the logo or like what it is. It's just something about them. Or when I go to the stick rack, I'm just like Vic Firth. Like, what do they got? So yeah. Besides the Scorpions that my drum teacher gave me, who's also the podcast interviewer, I'm using these Scorpion drums, but it's really what thickness are these? 2BV? I don't even totally know. Like,
yeah, so 2B is like the diameter.
Okay.
And that's that's what I use. They're like one among the thickest for drum kits, and I think the thickest maybe. And then the V for that brand just means they're a little bit longer, so they have a little extra reach for when you're playing fast and hard. You have a little more length to slip.
So 2 isn't necessarily like some sort of measurement they're using. Is it just like the model, and it happens to be
that's a good question.
10 millimeters of diameter, or however they.
It's counterintuitive because like the larger you go, the thicker the diameter, or the bigger the diameter. 7A is like those are the super thin like jazz style sticks.
Yeah.
Most drummers start on 5A, and then thicker is 5B, and then there's also an in between size. It's I think 3A or 3B in between 5 and 2, but 2 is like the thickest. There might be a 1. I've never seen it, but yeah. So it's like backwards.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, so yeah, this thickness feels great. I'm tempted to try a little bit thicker, like the drumline sticks. I was like in the Guitar Center just last week after my lesson, and there was a drumline kid in there just going off, and he was like trying all these different sticks, and they were like painted. They were like a wood stick, but they actually had like they were coated with something. They had like white tips on them. I don't know. I think they was wood with some sort of coating. It wasn't like acrylic tip.
Well, the drumline guys, they have a lot of different factors from what I understand. Like, they have uniforms, so like the colors can match their like team spirit and everything. But I think there's like it's almost like a toothbrush, like that little blue line that wears out, and then you're like, oh, time to get a new toothbrush. It's all white. I think, they wrap their sticks in tape and all this different stuff. But those thicker sticks, like I have these ProMark Scott Johnson sticks that I use at home for like chops building on a big 12-inch pad, and they pack some serious heat. And then when you get on the kit with the 2Bs, those feel like you were saying your old sticks in a way, and you can be a lot faster. So it's interesting. But yeah, I mean, you should experiment with that.
Yeah, dude. Big regret was high school. I took band in 8th grade, I think, stand-up bass. And the teacher sucked. The program was just weak, and it didn't stick. I I remember learning all the basics and listening to the drummers like learn. It just didn't make sense to me. I'm like, I want to drum like Tim Alexander. These guys are doing these like back then. Now I realize, they were practicing rudiments, and like I should have been learning that. I would have been way better off. And then once I got to high school, I didn't want to be in band, and then I wanted to skate and like be punk rock and do whatever. But now I have a huge regret, because now I see the drumline guys, and I'm like, dude, so badass. And just to be in the drumline and just
well, it's rad what they can do. But I have talked to a lot of drummers that started in drumline, and if they ever move over to the rock drum kit, they cannot play with their feet.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're like handicapped because their hands are moving like blazing fast, and they want to be at that level with their feet. And it takes years, of just like subconscious like marination of all these ideas and stuff to do with your feet, the muscle memory, and they can't do it. Or it's weird too. They're like some musicians and artists have this, like when they go completely academic and they try to move over into like a more creative, like holistic situation musically. Their creativity is like almost stunted. And so they're like, oh, well, it doesn't like, I have to be doing like something, I have to be reading, or I have to be doing something like this. That's not a knock, it's just different. But
yeah, I could see too, like you get super good at like, what do they play, like the double toms, or like the guys with like the 2 drums on them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like you get so good at that and you're like the man out there, but then you get on the kit and you can't break those habits, and it's probably so frustrating because you're so good at that discipline, and then it's just like the drum kits are stupid. Like, I don't want to play these, you know.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So you mentioned that you play the Roland TD20 electronic kit. Do you have another kit, or is that your?
No, that's it. Like I definitely would like to get an acoustic kit. I just feel like either I gotta rent a sound room with some buddies, or I have to build a soundproof room in my garage. Because I just don't want to do that to my neighbors.
Right.
It's pretty quiet over in the neighborhood at the moment.
So what would be your dream kit? I mean, as far as like brand or like how many pieces, what color, what do you want?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things that go through my mind. It's like I'm not super educated on, you know, all the different brands of kits, DW, Pearl, and like I've been geeking out on the John Bonham kit, but now when I think about it, I'm like, wait, what brand is that even? Is it a Pearl?
Ludwig,
yeah. That looks bitchin', but like I said, I geek out on, and then that kit's simple, and it looks like it's expensive, but it looks like pretty manageable. There's a floor, 2 toms, crasher ride, a hi-hat, and maybe another cymbal involved, and you know, the jumbo bass drum. That just seems incredible because I love, who doesn't like Bonham's playing? But then I'm watching like drum videos with Tim and looking at his kit, but his kit's like 25 pieces to it. That's massive, and it's just like, that's way, I would love that kit to drop out of the air and land, and I would just be way too much for me, but I could experiment on all the different drums he uses. But I probably would go for that Ludwig Bonham kit just because it's sick, dude.
It's so sick.
Yeah. I'd probably get on that. And yeah, honestly, the more I've been looking at acrylic kits and then looking at, maybe I should upgrade my E-kit. The E-kits are so expensive. I think that Ludwig's like $4,000 all in, maybe like $3,800. And like good E-kits now are like fucking $5,000. Like, I'm almost stoked on my TD20. I was sort of like complacent with it for a minute, but just last night, since I've been playing your acoustic kit, and I'm getting more comfortable with like the heights and like the optimal sort of ergonomics of the kit. I did get into the nitty gritty, and I raised it up, and I have it like almost feeling like this now. So sick. I kind of like fell back in love with the simple TD20, even though it's like kind of a little rinky dink, you know, and I'm like a huge guy, you know, so there's like, everything's a little too tight still. Like I feel like I need more space to like do my thing instead of being sort of like tucked in tighter. But anyways, yeah, it would have to be that Ludwig.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'll get another E-kit ever. I don't know. We'll see. Like, I don't know if I would replace pieces of my current kit as they wear down. Like, I think my hi-hat's getting a little beat up, you know, after 4 or 5 years. But, yeah, hopefully one day we'll get a real kit going.
Yeah, I think world peace would be achieved if, like, at birth, it's like you get a smartphone and a John Bonham signature Ludwig kit.
Yeah.
No one would want to beat the shit out of each other anymore.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
So you just mentioned, and I don't want to like fish for your tip, what your tip to a beginner would be, but you mentioned like raising the kit up and like upgrading to thicker diameter sticks. But what would be like 1 or 2 tips that you could give beginners or any drummer since you started recently changing some habits?
Yeah, I think I think I did go too long, like 4 or 5 years to just like have that kit set up in my house, taking up the space, and then like I don't feel like bummed or anything, but because it served its purpose. It's like not only is it fun, it helps your motor skills and it gets aggression out. It's like a stress reliever, so all that's good. Like it served its purpose. But if I could go back in time, I maybe would have like messed around on that kit for a few months, and then I wish I just like paid for lessons, even if it was just for 1 month. Just have a professional, someone experienced, catch the bad habits right off the bat. Because the first month of lessons, it was a struggle. It was fun, but I had to practice a lot to change my grip, to realize I'm like, you know, sitting wrong. There's just a lot of little nuanced things too. And wrist over, making the stick do the work with the rebound, and like so much stuff I wasn't doing. Like I literally thought like, wow, like your wrist is going that fast, or like your arm's going that fast, and they're like, no, it's not. Like the stick's doing the work. And like I never even like all those 4 years, I failed to like read up. Like a lot of people jump into things and read and watch YouTube videos. I'm just not that kind of guy. So like,
well, you got to be careful too with like YouTube videos or anything, because anyone can post stuff,
Right.
Like I'm just some dude and this is like a podcast now, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like why I'm not an expert, like why are people listening?
Right.
Like, so that's a really good point, because if you don't have much experience, or you're not getting lessons, and then you're just reading stuff on the internet or watching videos, you could be led astray. And then if you're doing nothing different, then you just stay kind of at the same level. But then getting lessons, you have some more experience, have concepts explained differently.
I mean, I'm almost positive. I don't know, maybe I was sleeping weird on my shoulder, but I swear I had my ride like way off to the side in a weird spot, and I was like gripping just the stick in such a weird way, and it wasn't even really French grip per se. I just had like my wrist and my arm doing weird stuff, and I really messed my shoulder up, and I like literally could not even play the drums for like 3 or 4 months. Like my shoulder was messed up, and I thought even like, did I like tear something in there, or like wear something down? But luckily over time, my shoulders sort of like healed up. It feels better. I'm playing again, and I'm like super mindful about like where everything is, and like how mechanically what my arm is doing, if it's awkward or like straining anything, because it happens in a weird way. It's not like when you play sports and you like pull your groin, or you're like trying to dunk a basketball when you're not supposed to, and it was like super gradual, because you're like sitting there playing and your arm gets a little tired, and then you take a break and you play, and you're doing that like 4 or 5 times a day. And eventually my shoulder was just jacked, and I just couldn't even play.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like when you sit at a computer with like just a regular old mouse
right
all day, and you're like carpal tunnel,
Yeah.
I had that go all the way up to my shoulder at a job that was super stressful, so I was always like nervous sitting there, like clicking. And it's weird how it affects you.
Yeah, that's the great thing working from home. I still don't go back to work. They're like, because I'm a graphic artist, and like they're like, you don't even need to be here. We'll save the desk spot that you just come in and check in a couple times a week, and that's good enough. And
that's cool.
Just answer the video call from Teams when you're there. But that's allowed me to like have my practice pad right next to my desk, and I'm just like constantly like taking 5-minute breaks all day long, just pop, 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 just like going off. So that's
awesome.
Been huge, man. I'll never take a job that I have to be in the office full time. I don't even care.
I think Einstein was similar to that. He said when he was working on really hard problems, he would take a break and play violin.
Oh yeah, kind of like loosen everything up in his brain, probably.
Yeah, it's like a timeout, in like a basketball game or something. Just take your mind off of exactly what you're doing.
Reset your brain.
And then come back to it and have a new breakthrough.
Yeah.
You're in good company. Cool, Alex.
Yeah, that's
thank you
it.
very much.
Thank you, man. That was fun.
Yeah. All right.